Welcome to Apothecary After Dark, the official podcast of Amityville Apothecary.
This is what real witches talk about when the doors are locked, the lights are low, and the incense is still smoldering.
From spell work and shadow work to hot takes on hexes, healing, and everything in between, we're serving up magic, mystery, and a little bit of mischief.
So pour a cup of your favorite libation, light that protection candle, and settle in. It's about to get witchy. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Apothecary After Dark, the official podcast of Amityville Apothecary, where we get real, talk about all the things real witches want to talk about when we lock the door and lower the blinds. I'm here with my business partner and best friend.
Hello, I am Danielle, and this is Dina, in case you don't know. And we have a very, very special guest with us tonight named Shannon Knight. We are very happy to have you here. And Shannon is a licensed psychotherapist and a tarot expert. And you have some books that we're going to talk about tonight. And you just are so fascinating. I'm excited to dive into this conversation.
You're mixing two of my most favorite worlds, which is self-reflection, brutal self-reflection, and tarot.
Yes. Yeah. It's fun. It's an exciting intersection to be in, and people seem to be enjoying it. So I'm glad.
For people that might not understand the connection, why don't you explain to us like why and how you can use tarot as a point of reflection and how it works in tandem with your profession?
It's such a great question. So many of us in this witchy occult world tend to talk about Carl Jung a lot because he talks a lot about archetypes, and there's some talk about, tarot and archetypes in his world and the collective unconscious specifically. And tarot does that, allows us to tap into all of these symbols. And when you think about tarot, every card in the deck can relate to every single person, no matter what stage of life they're in. And I think that's where the kind of crossover intersection comes in, especially when you're looking at it through a therapeutic lens. Anyone can pull a card, even if they're not reading tarot in a traditional sense, and see themselves in the card.
Absolutely. It's interesting owning a metaphysical shop with Danielle. We get a lot of customers that are coming in with particular points of discomfort in their lives, whether they're, going through some financial crisis, or they're going through a relational crisis, or they're going through, dark night of the soul and reinventing themselves. But a lot of times they'll come in and they'll be looking for something. And, it's always interesting when we have these conversations about everything sort of being a tool towards self-reflection and self-understanding. So it's often not the answer that they want to hear.
Right, because it's so funny. I was talking to someone recently about this and how we were having a conversation of why people would go to a tarot reader over a therapist, or or use them both, in tandem. And we were talking about how people might go to a tarot reader before going to a therapist, or even without going to a therapist, because they want like a quick answer, or they're just like maybe in distress in that moment, and that's really accessible for them. And it's fascinating because like everyone who goes to therapy and then also goes to a tarot reader usually brings the same problems. It's relationships, it's finances, it's work, how to deal with everything that's going on in the world, anything that's happening like internally. Why am I feeling this way? Like, why is this happening to me? The questions overlap a lot.
I also think the tarot is such a great tool to prompt journal entries, and just to, some people who aren't as familiar with tarot or using divination tools, they think it's absolute. But I said, no, it's a point of introspection and consideration. And it may give you a perspective that you hadn't considered before, because you always have free will to decision upon, right? And we naturally have biases as well, but that requires a stark mirror. But, it at least gets you thinking about different things you might not have considered. So what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, tarot is a mirror. It's a projective tool. When we pull a card, we're projecting our own inner world, our own experiences onto that card. That's why, and I was reflecting on this earlier today about how even my own relationship to certain cards and how I interpret them has changed, even just over the
Mm.
last year, because it all depends on what I'm projecting onto the cards and what I'm bringing to them based on what's happening in my life. And yeah, you talked about it being a really great tool for journaling because sometimes we don't have the words, or we just need some sort of like extra thing to help us tap into what we're feeling or thinking. It's kind of like when we like if we go to an art museum and we're walking around, even though we've maybe never seen this art that's in front of us, we can have some sort of visceral reaction and then it sparks a conversation. It's the same with the cards. We might pull to a prompt and, pull a particular card and then say, wow, I never would have considered, this thing or this relationship that I'm now thinking about right now that came up, but it does like impact, me and
Yeah.
based on whatever prompt I'm pulling to.
So you just said about how over time your relationship with cards is like changes, like as we grow, as we learn, as we move through life and have different experiences. It's true that we do have different relationships with the different archetypes. So my question would be, what is your card at the moment that you're having the most difficult relationship with?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's so funny. So,
Yeah.
people who've been listening to the tarot diagnosis for a while know there's this like running joke in the community that I used to hate the sun card. Like, that was
Hmm.
the card that used to bother me so much. And I know like people would give me that reaction like, what? Like, what do you mean? That's the like best card in the deck because it's so joyful. But for the longest time, I associated it with toxic positivity and
Mm,
dismissiveness. Like,
yeah.
oh, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Like, go out and get some sunlight.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like very avoidant or even like spiritual bypassing, for example. And so I had to do a lot of work with that card to change my relationship with it. And I'm a big gardener and I love garden metaphors. And so I started thinking about the sun from a literal sense, like not just the
Mhm.
archetypal sun, and how my garden needs sun in order to grow. And so I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm going to start looking at the card through this lens, how it's life giving versus toxic positivity. So I've done a lot of work with that card. Lately, though, I've been annoyed with strength. So I guess like the majors, I don't know, and it's funny because I feel like strength is also one of those cards where it can be dismissive, like, oh, just be strong.
Yeah.
But I was reflecting on closed eyes and blindfolds in the tarot recently, and that's a card that I feel like we don't consider when we think about closed eyes or blindfolds. But the figure, the angel, actually has one of their hands covering one of the eyes of
Mm.
the lion. And so I was thinking about it in terms of in therapy, there's this concept called systemic desensitization. So it's where we're kind of like slowly titrating exposure to something that's anxiety provoking.
Mhm.
And we do that cautiously, bit by bit. And so it reminded me of like, okay, only one eye is closed, not
Yeah.
both. So yeah, I'm working on my relationship to that card. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I have a terrible relationship with the card judgment.
Oh yeah.
It's a tough one for me. Like, I look at it, the traditional imagery just aggravates me. Yeah.
It's rooted in a lot of organized religion
Mhm.
in the traditional imagery. And something that so many of us struggle with is literal judgment, like fear of being
Mhm.
perceived. Am I a good person? Have I done the right thing? What are people going to think of
Yeah.
me? And so that can bring up a lot of those feelings with that card too.
Yeah. So I also think of it like from like the perspective of like the religious, like the blast of the trumpet. Like, do you get to
Yeah.
ascend? Did
Right.
like
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's a tough one. Absolutely. Whenever it comes out, I'm like, oh, okay.
Like, I don't want to see you.
Yeah.
See, I used to dread the tower, but I
Mhm.
actually love the tower card
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
I've really learned to love and embrace the tower. I was like, let it crumble and fall. It
Yeah, I get
wasn't
it.
meant to stand. So just take that leap of faith because it's better than staying stuck.
Well, the good news is when you've lived through a couple of tower moments, you don't, like you were just saying
Yeah.
about that exposure therapy. You're like, well,
I've survived
Yeah.
1,000 deaths,
Yeah.
so
it's
therefore
okay.
I know the star is going to be coming, and then the healing
Yeah.
begins, and like we
It's okay.
rebuild. So it's okay. But I used to see that and have like dread, but now I'm like,
Right.
oh, hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
know. And chaos is fun. I feel like the tower can represent chaos too. And,
Now
at
I
least,
embrace
it's not
it.
going to be boring. Yeah.
That, I mean,
Good.
Yeah, things
that
are going to
is
get
certainly
fun and
true.
interesting for sure.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
buckle
yeah.
up.
I mean, my whole
Yeah.
thing is like
Seriously.
people, and I'm going to sort of like drag in the suit of swords as it relates to your forthcoming title on
Mm.
shadow work, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of the swords speak to those aspects of ourselves. And I know that the swords, when people get a lot of them, they're like, this is this reading's going south and sideways. But
Yeah.
I really think it's so important to have access to the truth so then you could begin to decide from a place of honesty, what you're going to do and how you're going to move on from there. Like, for example, thinking about like the Three of Swords, right? The
Mm.
betrayal. Well, the betrayal existed already.
It's the
Right.
discovery.
It's the discovery of it, and so now you get to move on. So like, it's not the Three of Swords itself. It's it's the fact that now you see. But would you rather, like going back to the blindfold metaphor, put the blindfold on
Mm.
and not know?
Mm.
It's the integration and
it is. It's
processing
very
of the
interesting.
betrayal
Yeah.
because it happened.
Mm-hmm.
You can't unsee it. So like,
Mm.
how do you move forward? Because that was my most hated
Yeah.
card
That's
in
why I
the
brought
deck.
it up
Yeah,
to poke you a little
I
bit.
know. I'm getting
To
much more
poke you.
comfortable. Yeah, but she knows,
I mean,
especially in the Light Seers Tarot. It's one of the most
mm,
painful Three of Swords cards in any
Yeah.
deck because it's just so evocative of the feeling that
Yeah.
comes with that exposure. But it's
Yeah.
also critical to have that exposure and the discovery so that you can heal.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's
yeah.
shadow work, right? I mean, that's the whole basis
Mm-hmm.
of your new book. So, from your perspective as a psychotherapist, can you explain to our listeners what is shadow work?
Yeah. So, well, first I'll talk about the shadow. So the shadow is all the parts of ourself. And this comes straight from psychoanalyst Carl Jung. He worked alongside Sigmund Freud. So if you've ever taken an intro to psychology class, which pretty much everyone I know or have spoken to has, Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. And Jung talked about the concept of the shadow, which is all the parts of ourselves that we repress, suppress, deny, or avoid because we don't want to be associated with those parts. We want to put as much distance between us and that part or that identity as we can. And that space looks like projection usually. So projection would be a great example of this is the Emperor. The Emperor is a card that a lot of people very much dislike because it represents the patriarchy, power, authority, aspects that like people don't want to necessarily like embrace. They don't want to like feel controlled, or it represents people in their life who they feel like controlled them. And so the shadow might be, okay, well, you're projecting this disdain onto this card. And Carl Jung used to say, that which irritates us about others tells us more about ourselves. And this isn't always the case, but sometimes it is. So with the Emperor, I usually ask folks, okay, yeah, this is a card that creates a lot of discomfort for you and you're angry and you're projecting right now. Is it possible that maybe you have some of these qualities in this card that you're trying to distance yourself from because you don't want to be associated with it? Maybe there's a part of you that really likes to be in control. Maybe there's a part of you that's power hungry. And so exploring that and realizing this isn't a part of you that you should get rid of, but it's important to know that part because that part, whether we're aware of it or not, unconsciously informs how we show up in relationships. And so once we start to identify those parts and we realize, oh, yeah, this is something that exists within me, then we can realize when we get hooked or triggered, and then we can start to respond differently. So I actually just answered what shadow work is too. So that's also shadow work in addition to what the shadow is.
So, are you going deep into this and explaining to users in your new book, like how to
Yes.
go about approaching that? Because it brings up all sorts of emotions that a lot of people are not necessarily comfortable with. So,
Yes. Honestly, that is one of the reasons I was really excited to write this book because there's so much out there on the shadow and shadow work. And I really wanted to come at it from a place that was rooted in psychological and therapeutic theory. That was really important to me. So there's a whole chapter on priming yourself for shadow work, which is basically how do you make sure you're resourced enough? How do you make sure that you have the support, have the coping skills, know when to enter and when to exit into this space. And there's, a lot of witchy components to this. So I talk about ritual and the importance of if you're intentionally doing this work, you could have a ritual around stepping into shadow space and a ritual for leaving shadow space so that you know that, you've kind of like opening or closing a circle, basically. It's very similar to that. And so there's a whole point of making sure that you're well resourced because I dive into it. This is way more than just prompts or tarot spreads, which if you follow me on Instagram, you see those. Like
Yeah.
this goes way deeper. And so I wanted people, and I tell people I have a habit because I have ADHD where I can skip around in books a lot. And so I have a bad habit of like sometimes like skipping intro parts of books just so I can get to the meat of it. And I tell people, please don't skip the intro of this one. It is really important. I know it's going to be tempting too, but I do want to make sure people are well resourced for this work and having someone to talk to as well, because there's a lot of shame that's associated with the shadow. That's how the shadow is usually established, because somewhere along the line, someone made us feel ashamed of a behavior or an aspect of ourselves. So making sure that you have that support system too is important because I take it pretty deep.
Yeah. It's so critically important, and it's so interesting how shadow work has somehow become so big in the witchy metaphysical space. And it's actually amazing that you're allowing people to understand what it means to be resourced, because I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they're falling into groups with practitioners that do not know
Yes.
what they're doing, and they are not holding the space in a way that's safe for the members of their groups. They are not
Yeah.
credentialed, they do not have training, and they are promising outcomes with very expensive price tags,
and they
Mm-hmm.
can
I might
trigger
add.
stuff that people are not prepared to
Right.
cope with or face. And
Yeah.
if you're not prepared, like you're a professional, I am a huge proponent of having a
Mhm.
therapist in addition to all
Yeah.
of these modalities, and it's benefited me greatly. But
Yeah.
there's very serious things that people face that does require professional help. So this
Yeah.
does not replace the importance of consulting with professionals for
Exactly.
life events. So I think they
Yes.
complement each other beautifully, but
Yes.
this is a journey of
Mm-hmm.
personal development and growth and introspection and consideration, but there is definitely a place for both. So,
Yeah, I'm honestly so glad you brought up the importance of, well, the importance of like knowing who you're
Mhm.
maybe following or whose content
Yeah.
you're consuming or whose group you're entering. To be totally honest, I only just started hearing about certain groups like
Mm.
recently, because this book's coming out. So I'm talking to colleagues and people are coming to me saying, hey, like this thing happened, or I know this person who belonged to
Yeah.
this group. And I'm so shocked that this is what's happening. So it's also important. I tell people all the time, like, please do your research. Like, don't just blindly follow or listen to people. Also, like, research me. Just because I wrote a book, like,
Right.
you can look at my
We
credentials. You can make sure I know what I'm talking about.
we always say go deep into receipts on
Yeah.
anybody and everything, because we have people that have shops that are selling hypnosis services for
Mm,
for trauma healing, and they are
yeah.
not like,
they're
they're
not
not
equipped for that.
psychotherapists, they're not
It's dangerous
psychologists,
and it's predatory.
and they're charging upwards of $300 an hour.
I don't even charge close to that.
It's but it's
Yeah.
and here's the
Yeah.
thing, like you know how it is, and sometimes in these spaces you curate this glossy social media presence where it's looking
Right.
like your life is easy and everything's coming to you. And I'm a master manifester and look at how great my life is and all of my relationships are perfect. And for somebody that is harmed and in a low point in their life, you can understand why they just want to grasp at that hope.
Yes. I'm so glad you're saying this. Like, this is so important, especially in this community. And like, even saying the word manifest, I have a whole rabbit hole I could go down on that.
Yeah.
Like, from the psychology of it, because I think that people are so quick to say, oh, if you want money or if you want a big house, just manifest it and you'll get it. And that is also a form of bypassing because you're not considering or including what's happening to this person, like socioeconomically, or what their situation looks like, all of these other factors that play into it. But there is some fun kind of like psychological research behind, this idea where, I think about when I think of manifesting, I think of like writing things down that I'm working towards, like goals or ideas. And I actually talk about this a little bit in the book, the science behind this, where I think that I always forget the exact number, and it's been a while since I read the book, but it's in there. And the statistic is something like 30. I think you're 30 to 50% more likely to accomplish the thing or get the thing that you want after you've written it down.
Yep.
And the neuroscience behind that is because your brain is more attuned to dialing into people, places, things, opportunities that can help you access that. So yeah, be careful about even just like the idea of manifesting. Like, there's still work and effort that goes into it.
Right.
And yeah, like when you're in a vulnerable space, like knowing that you're in a vulnerable space. So, like you mentioned, that you're not taken advantage of, because there are predatory people out there.
Yeah. And it's so critically important to have these conversations because
well, you only know what you know.
Yeah.
Right. I know somebody in my family who got involved and felt connected to someone on social media, and then immediately went down the rabbit hole funnel of sign up and I'll be your life coach for $300+ a month. And I said, absolutely not. Check the receipts. That is not anyone you should be giving money to. And it's just a matter of lip service without the cred. And I was glad that I was able to find out about that. But a lot of people, they just think, oh, well, we really connected and I resonated. I'm like, it doesn't make them credentialed. So just, people need to be careful and be cautious and use discretion. And that's where, the professionalism comes in. So I think this book is going to be a very valuable resource. And I appreciate you. And you have that great podcast too, the Tarot Diagnosis podcast. So I enjoy that very much. Thank you.
I appreciate it. That's been so fun. It has been such a nice kind of creative aspect where both of my worlds can meet. And I love getting so nerdy and talking about the cards through a psychological, mental health, therapeutic perspective.
It's awesome. And it, as a reader, having that perspective just informs more of, I don't want to say like the tools in my toolbox, but like more of the definitions that like, because these cards go so deep because human beings are deep and we're all so different, yet the same really. But we're so similar and so different at the same time.
We share human experiences.
It's great. I really appreciate it. When is your book being released?
December 8th.
We already have it on pre-order.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Yes.
But yes, it'll be out December 8th, 2025. So, I think by the time listeners are seeing this, they'll be able to have it in their hands.
Well,
learn all about the shadow.
You can get it from us at shop@amityvilleapothecary.com because, like I always say, Jeffrey Bezos already has enough money.
Right. Yes. Buy local. Please shop local.
Exactly.
So let's close out with a card for the collective. Let's see what the energy has to reveal itself to us in the next 2 weeks. That's the intention.
Oh, it's one of my favorite cards.
I love that card. That's actually my favorite version of that card.
It is the favorite version of that card.
It's gorgeous.
So it's the Death and Rebirth card from the Light Seers Tarot deck. It's so beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Death is my card of the week. I create a sigil each week. I pull a card for like an affirmation and create a sigil around it, and it was death.
All right,
Nice.
There you go. Appropriate for the time of year too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Stop it!
What'd
I
you
got
get?
the sun.
No,
Yes, I did.
Perfect.
it's taunting me. It's back.
It really is.
See,
it really
you
is.
just
Like,
summoned it.
oh, Shannon, I heard you.
That's
You
so, okay. So
manifested that.
can we talk about how we all just pulled majors? I just pulled the magician.
Oh, the magician.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
That's actually a really pretty powerful reading.
It is a powerful reading. All right. Well, who wants to get into it? I don't even know if I want to take a stab at this one. My God.
Well, death and rebirth. I mean, we're constantly doing cycles. Like I said, I'm newly welcoming the tower every time it comes. But death and rebirth, I think we have to shed all of those aspects of ourselves that no longer are in alignment with what's happening in our lives and where we're going and where we're growing. So I love this depiction of it because it literally states rebirth on it too. So it's not so scary. You have to let go of that to allow space for new beginnings.
It all just came to me like a lightning bolt. I'm going to throw it against Shannon's new book and say that you have to use the antiseptic light of the sun to absorb those places within yourself that need to have light. Because if you look at this card, if you could see it, the center of the hood is this beautiful, bright sun of a forest. So it's almost like the sun is in death and rebirth already. Yeah. So it's like inviting you to have that sunlight. But then we have the tools with at our disposal, the tools of the magician at our disposal to do that work.
We already have it within us. So he has everything he needs to alchemize whatever you're wishing.
What do you have, Shannon?
Yeah.
I love where you both are going with these. And I'm just like, I can't believe we all three pulled majors. Like, what are the odds of that? And I have not pulled the magician in a long time. So this is wild for me to see this card. I can't remember the last time I pulled it. But so when I'm, I love to obviously talk about this through a therapeutic lens. And one of the ways I like to talk about this card is how it's the therapist's job to paint the client as the magician, because so often we feel like we're not good enough. We don't have what it takes. We're not capable. And so when they come to therapy, we're often like at our wit's end, like we don't know what to do, how to feel. We're lost. We're confused. And so being able to tap into what do we have access to, what's in front of us, what do we already know how to use, and what are we going to be curious about being able to use in the future? Like, what are we curious about learning about ourselves or the world around us? To be able to tap into that sun energy and that death and rebirth energy to maybe kind of like not necessarily recreate ourselves, but just have new and different experiences.
I love that.
And also, I can't say it enough that some of the most transformative change in my life has come from some of the darkest days, because I know that has forced transformation that would not normally come, but sunny days do always tend to follow with time and work and, development. So this is so awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. Where can everybody find out more about you, your podcast, your Instagram? Where can they find you in all the places?
Yeah, so I'm mainly on Instagram. You can follow me at The Tarot Diagnosis. You can listen to the Tarot Diagnosis podcast wherever you listen to podcasts or music. You can also check out my website, thetarotdiagnosis.com. I have lots of good stuff and information there. But Instagram's usually where I'm at, and the podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome. We look forward to your book being released out into the world, and everybody.
Come and visit us here in Amityville, and we'll do a book signing and author talk in real life.
Oh my gosh, don't tempt me. That sounds exciting.
Come
Open invitation.
Totally.
Yes. We'll make it happen. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. That's all for tonight, witches, but the magic doesn't stop here.
Be sure to follow Apothecary After Dark wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Leave us a comment or review. We'd love to hear what's stirring in your cauldron.
And you can always find us at shopamityvilleapothecary.com or at Amityville Apothecary across all the socials.
Until next time, keep your wards up, your wands at the ready, and your spell work sharp.